All right, Syracuse versus the College of St. Rose game recap. I'm going to try to do a game recap for every Syracuse basketball game that we have this season. It's going to be a lot with school and my own basketball practices and stuff, but I'm going to try my best, even if they're just a couple days late. But we're going to get right into the headline. So Benny Williams did not play due to suspension. If you want to go check out the most recent video on the channel, I talked about the suspension, when it was announced, what it could be about, all that. So you guys can go check that out for further explanation. Justin Taylor started at the 3, and Chris Bell was moved to the 4 because of Benny Williams' absence. Malik Brown also did not play due to a mild lower body injury. Sounds like it was just precautionary considering he played in the Damon game. Nothing to really look out for there, hopefully. Came out of the gates a little sloppy. We had some rust possessions, but honestly, I did expect this because Judah was back. It was his first game of the season. He did not play in the Damon Expedition game. So him and J.J. Starling obviously went out there and pushed the pace because that's what they do. They have very fast play styles, and I think that took a little while for us to figure out. It was still overall kind of a sloppy game, but I think it was definitely a better game than the Damon game, and I think I saw a lot of improvements that I was a fan of. The refs in this game were calling everything on both sides of the floor, which was a little annoying since it was just an Expedition game. I would have liked to see them just let the guys play a little bit more, but you're going to deal with bad refs during the regular season, so I can't be mad at it here. Judah Mintz and J.J. Starling both looked like they had been playing together for a while once we just started really getting into the game. They had electric chemistry and communication with talking without even talking. Like, I don't know if you guys understand what I'm talking about, but it seems like they just knew how each other were playing the game, and they knew what to do with both of each other on the court, running the 1 and the 2. It looked great. Super excited for this season. We did bring out the 2-3 zone early. It seems like we've been experimenting with the zone and probably working on it a little bit in practice, but as Autry and the players said at ACC Media Day, we're going to be about 90% of a man-to-man defense team, which I'm a big fan of because we got new guys like Kyle Cuff who are great on-ball defenders, so I think that's going to be really cool to see this year. It's moving away from that 2-3 zone a little bit. One thing I would like to say is I feel like we have so many guys who can push the pace and get into transition well, but sometimes just watching this game, we need to slow it down and bring the ball out and just set up whatever offense it is that we're running. Judah Mintz can run an offense, and so can J.J. Starling. I just felt like we had a few turnovers, pushing the ball too quickly down the floor against St. Rose, and we also got out of position on the defensive end after we would miss those shots that we just rushed. And I don't think there was any need to rush those shots because we have guys who can shoot the ball. We have big men. We have everything we need to run a successful offense. So I think sometimes, if Judah's going to the basket, sure. If JJ's going to the basket, sure. But sometimes even those guys just need to take it out and set up whatever offense Autry wants us to run. But Judah Mintz and Chris Bell combined for 34 points together in the first half. And when playing against a 2-3 zone, I would like to say, Naheem McLeod, it really is huge for us. Once the ball gets thrown to him at one of the blocks down low, St. Rose automatically ran to him, which created so much space on the wings for our shooters, like Chris Bell, who was on fire that night. When our wings and guards pass the ball around quickly, we get rewarded for those easy buckets, and we get rewarded with easy buckets. And Naheem McLeod is going to be a problem for other teams to figure out how to defend, not just because of his scoring, but just because of how much attention he draws, especially when we're playing against that 2-3 zone. It kind of just collapses many times. At least it did against St. Rose, and I'm sure other teams at the higher levels are going to figure out a game plan to stop that. But the St. Rose defense just really collapsed whenever McLeod got the ball on one of the blocks or the high post or something like that. Final score of the game was 86-61 Syracuse. Now we're going to go ahead and get into each player that we saw check into the game for the Orange, how they played, what I saw, starting off with number 0, Kyle Cuff, Jr. guard. Started the game off looking like one of the best players on the floor as soon as he checked into the game. He had 2 points, 2 assists, 1 steal really early. He played a great game. As I said, I think he's going to be one of the best defenders on our team. He reads the passing lanes fantastic. And again, we know he's dealt with injuries at Kansas in high school, so we really haven't seen much of him at the college level in game, but he's already looking great in these Expedition games, and I'm excited to see how we use him this year and just what role he is coming off the bench for us. Next up, number 3, Judah Mintz. We did not get to see him play against Damon, but he played with high energy since the tip in this St. Rose game. He got on the floor for multiple loose balls, and it honestly just looked like he was happy to be back out there, back on the court with the team, back in an actual game that was not against each other. He was a defensive pest, picking up his assignment full court majority of the time, even when the team wasn't in a full court press. Judah just has that energy, and he plays with that high motor that's what he can do. And he's quick enough to pick up that guy full court, create problems, and cause problems as they're trying to run their offense on the floor. Now, he read the passing lanes extremely well, like I said, which did lead to a couple transition dunks and buckets for him, just doing what he did last year, picking up. He had a great game. I know he scored way over double digits. I believe he had 17, 18, something like that points. Fantastic game from Judah, coming back second season, decided not to follow through with going to the draft, which I think was a great decision for him, and obviously huge fan of that decision just because he's back in Syracuse. So next up, number 24, Quadir Copeland, guard. He had a fantastic game against Damon, looked like one of the best players on our team, and this game was not as good as the Damon game for Quadir. He checked into the game with 7 minutes into the game, and he picked up 2 really early fouls in a minute, and then he was subbed out. And honestly, he just struggled a little bit converting when he drove to the lane. I think he gets there, and he has everything except the finish sometimes. But again, I'm not looking too much into this because of how great he played in the Damon game. I think he had an off night just because Chris Bell had an off night against Damon. He came back, and he had the career high for him. I know it doesn't count because it's an expedition game, but most points he's ever scored in a Syracuse jersey against St. Rose, despite having a terrible game, if we're being honest, against Damon. Quadir Copeland just came back, probably had an off night, but I'm not looking too much into this. I think Quadir's going to be huge for us this year. JJ Starling next up. I didn't see much of him in the Damon game. He just looked like what he did at Notre Dame, which is great for us as a starter. And same thing with this game against St. Rose. I know he converted on one tough and one. It was about halfway into the first half. And it was tough. It was a good bucket, and he's really good when it comes to finishing through contact and stuff like that. So, again, just keep watching him and his duo with Judah this year. It's going to be really exciting to watch. Next up, we're moving on to the forwards. We got number 4, Chris Bell. Following a poor performance against Damon on Friday, he knocked down a 3 quickly out the gates. He started the game off with a fast break dunk in transition. He played great defense on the perimeter into the paint, which led to himself earning a couple of blocks. Great anticipation on the defensive side of the ball, earning himself steals into assists, and he played a fantastic game. He was knocking down his shots unlike the Damon game. It was great to see Chris Bell bounce back and just have that game before the regular season that really just to boost his confidence, and I love seeing him play. Again, great game by Chris. I knew that it wasn't going to be a big deal, the Damon game. I knew we weren't going to have to look into it much because Chris Bell is going to be a starter for us this year, and he came back, had a great game against St. Rose, so that was really cool to see. Next up, we got number 5, Justin Taylor. He's continuing his high-level shooting with an early 3 to start off the game. He operated well around the basket and mid-range area. We saw him get the ball at the high post a couple of times, which I was a huge fan of. Love seeing that. That was really interesting, but it worked, and he knocked down a couple of jumpers, and he's one of the best shooters on the team without a doubt, so I don't see why it wouldn't work. But again, Justin Taylor just playing that role of being a shooter on the team and just creating for other guys. He did that really well a couple nights ago against St. Rose. Now we move on to the centers. Number 10, Naheem McLeod. He did a good job at getting in front of and affecting shot attempts. We know this is what he's going to do all year. With his 7'4" frame, tallest player in Syracuse basketball history, he's going to be affecting shots inside the arc. It's what he's going to do. I would like to see him play with a little bit more aggression when getting offensive rebounds. I just feel personally like he should be able to follow up missed shots and finish easier over smaller bigs being 7'4". Like 7'4". Like he should be getting those offensive rebounds for us, kicking out and just getting us second shot opportunities, because I think that's going to be crucial this year for us. Say we have a bad shooting game, Naheem McLeod's got to get down there and get those rebounds. But overall, he did a better job at rebounding the ball in the second half, and he did actually get to put on display some of his post moves that he's been probably working on with the coaches in the offseason coming from Florida State. But solid game by Naheem McLeod. I'm super excited to see how he develops for us throughout the season on the way to March. Next up, we got number 23, Peter Carey. He did have a really effective 5 or 6 minutes in the first half, just playing hard. He got on the floor for a couple loose balls, was just getting down there, getting aggressive in the paint for fighting for loose balls, fighting for rebounds and stuff. Despite not being as tall or strong as McLeod, I think he crashes the boards with much more power and aggression than Naheem does and than Naheem has. But again, that's just him having to make up for his frame and having to make up for his strength. We know Naheem is taller and stronger than Peter Carey, so he has to do those things, really get down and dirty and just make those rebounds and get those rebounds for us, again, providing second shot opportunities on the offensive side of the floor. Next up, this one is really exciting. We did get to see number 21 freshman William Patterson check into the game. He did not get into the game on Friday against Damon, but he checked in with about a few minutes left in the first half against St. Rose. He picked up a few rebounds, and he actually had multiple blocks late in the second half. And he was playing a game, I'm not going to lie. He didn't score the ball at all, but when it came to playing defense, he did a fantastic job. He looked like he knew what he was doing out there, which this whole situation could be very overwhelming for a freshman, even though it's an expedition game. But he looked great out there on the defensive end, and it was really cool to see a guy that we've interviewed a couple times on the show, a good friend of the show, just get into the game, check in for Syracuse, and I'm really excited to see how he does and how he develops the next few years for the Orange. Definitely a great player to look out for, especially if you guys are big men in real life and you guys want to watch a talented big man in high school. Just great length, great defensive abilities, and it's going to be cool to see how he develops as a scorer the next few years as well. But yeah, Syracuse versus St. Rose, final score of 86-61. A great win for us to build that confidence moving into the regular season. Starts Monday, November 6th. I believe it's against New Hampshire. I could be wrong. Might have to check it. But super excited for the regular season opener. Hopefully we can get off to a great start in the 2023 to 2024 season. I will see you guys next time. Comment down below your thoughts on the game. Peace.